My parents announced at Thanksgiving dinner that my brother would inherit everything: the house, the business, $2 million, while I got nothing because I was strong and independent enough. And 3 months later, my daily visits to my dying father would rewrite that in the most devastating way possible. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Revenge with Mary. Ever been overlooked your whole life while the golden child got everything? This story proves that sometimes just being there is the ultimate revenge. Smash that like and subscribe. Let's get into it. My parents announced at Thanksgiving dinner that my brother would inherit everything: the house, the business, $2 million, while I got nothing because I was strong and independent enough. And 3 months later, my daily visits to my dying father would rewrite that in the most devastating way possible. My name is Megan. I'm 34 years old, a nurse practitioner, and for my entire life I've been the strong, independent one, while my younger brother Logan was the golden child who could do no wrong. My parents, Gerald and Teresa, always favored him. This is the story of how their favoritism became his downfall, and I didn't plan a single moment of it. The dining room smelled like roasted turkey and sweet potatoes, but I could barely taste anything. My parents' Thanksgiving table was set with the good china, the kind Mom only brought out for important occasions, and I had a sinking feeling I knew what was coming. Dad cleared his throat and stood up, wine glass in hand. He was 68, still sharp, still the commanding presence he'd always been as the owner of a commercial real estate firm he'd built from nothing over 40 years. "I have an announcement to make," he said, his voice cutting through the dinner conversation. Mom reached over and squeezed his hand, smiling that tight smile I'd learned to recognize, the one that meant something uncomfortable was about to happen, and she wanted everyone to just accept it gracefully. I glanced at my brother Logan across the table. He was 29, 5 years younger than me, already leaning forward with that eager expression he always had when Dad talked about the business. His wife Sophia sat beside him, perfectly manicured hand resting on her pregnant belly, 7 months along with their second child. "As you all know," Dad continued, "I've been thinking about legacy, about what happens to everything your mother and I have built when we're gone." My husband Ethan reached under the table and squeezed my hand. He knew. We'd talked about this possibility, the pattern we'd seen my whole life. Logan got the college fund while I worked 3 jobs for my nursing degree. Logan got the down payment on his house while we scraped together our own. Logan got the new car, the business connections, the constant financial safety net. I got praise for being so independent and not needing help. "Your mother and I have finalized our estate planning," Dad said, pulling out a folder from the sideboard. This wasn't spontaneous. This was orchestrated. "The house, the business, and the majority of the estate will go to Logan," Dad said, looking directly at my brother. "You have a family to support. 2 children soon. You'll need stability." Logan's face lit up with poorly concealed satisfaction. "Megan," Dad turned to me, "you've always been so capable. You have your career. You don't have children. You and Ethan are doing well on your own. I know you'll understand that Logan needs this more." The words hit like ice water. I need this more. As if my life, my marriage, my $80,000 in nursing school debt didn't matter, because I'd been strong enough to handle them alone. Ethan's hand tightened on mine. I could feel him about to speak, about to defend me, but I squeezed back, a silent message to wait. "I understand, Dad," I heard myself say, my voice calmer than I felt. "Family takes care of family." Mom looked relieved. Logan raised his glass. "To Dad, and to family legacy." I raised my glass too, smiling, while inside I felt something break. Not anger, just resignation. This was who they'd always been. Why had I expected something different? I didn't know then that everything was about to change in the worst and best way possible. 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, Dad called me at work. His voice sounded wrong, thin, shaky. "Megan, honey, I need to tell you something." My nurse instincts kicked in immediately. "Dad, what's wrong? Are you okay?" "I've been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors, They're saying 6 to 8 months, maybe a year with aggressive treatment. The hospital corridor seemed to tilt. I grabbed the wall for support. Dad, when did you find out? Yesterday. We're still processing. Your mom's a mess. I wanted you to know. I'm coming over tonight, I said immediately. I'll bring dinner. We'll talk through everything. Treatment options, second opinions, care plans. You don't have to. Dad, I'm a nurse. This is what I do. I'm coming. That night, I sat with my parents for 4 hours. I took notes on his diagnosis, researched his oncologist, explained what the treatment timeline would look like, what side effects to expect, what home care would involve. Logan wasn't there. He was busy with the kids and would come by this weekend. He didn't. I started visiting twice a week, then 3 times, then almost daily as Dad's condition deteriorated faster than anyone expected. I wasn't trying to win anything. I wasn't playing a long game. I'm a nurse. When someone I love is sick, I show up. It's that simple. I learned his medication schedule by heart, coordinated with his oncology team, drove him to chemo appointments when he was too weak to drive himself, helped him shower when he couldn't do it alone anymore, managed his pain levels, held his hand during the bad nights. Mom was there too, overwhelmed and terrified, grateful for my medical background and steady presence. Logan called every Sunday, sometimes. How's Dad doing? Always the same question. Brief, obligatory. Never, what can I do? Never, let me take a shift so you can rest. By month 2, I'd taken partial leave from the hospital. Ethan supported it completely, even though it meant financial strain. He's your dad, Ethan said simply. We'll figure it out. I was there for Dad's first major pain crisis at 3 a.m. I was there when he broke down crying after a brutal chemo session that left him vomiting for hours. I was there when he lost his hair, his dignity, his hope. Logan called twice a week, each conversation lasting maybe 3 minutes. And here's what I started noticing. Something that made my blood run cold. Every time Logan did visit, maybe once every 2 weeks, within 5 minutes he'd steer the conversation to business. Dad, have you thought about the transition timeline for the company? I've been reviewing the property portfolio. Should we sell the downtown assets or hold them? Have you talked to the lawyer about minimizing estate taxes? Never, how are you feeling today? Never, can I get you anything? Never, I'm here, Dad. Just business. Just inheritance. Just money. I didn't say anything. What could I say? But I saw it. And more importantly, Mom saw it. Month 3, everything shifted. It was a Tuesday night. Dad had a particularly bad day. Pain management wasn't working. He couldn't keep food down. He was weak and scared and crying in a way that broke my heart. I stayed until 2 a.m., adjusting medications, holding cool clothes to his head, just being there. Logan didn't call that day, or the next. When he finally called on Thursday, his first words were, "Hey Dad, quick question about the business insurance policies." I was in the room. I watched my father's face change, something hardening behind his eyes. "Logan, I'm not feeling well. Can we talk about this another time?" "Oh yeah, sure." "Feel better." Click, 3 minutes. That's all he'd given. After he hung up, Dad looked at me with tears in his eyes. He doesn't care, does he? He just wants to make sure his inheritance is secure. I didn't know what to say, so I just held his hand. You've been here every day, Megan. Every single day. And I've taken that for granted for so long. Dad, you don't have to... No, let me say this. I made a mistake. I always thought Logan needed more help, more support. I thought you were so strong you didn't need me. His voice cracked. But you were strong because you had to be, because I didn't give you a choice. I started crying then. Dad, I'm calling my lawyer tomorrow, he said quietly. I need to fix this while I still can. I didn't ask him what he meant. I didn't want to influence him. I didn't want this to be about money, but 2 weeks later, Dad's lawyer Jordan came to the house. Mom called me. Megan, your father wants you here for this. When I arrived, Dad was sitting at the kitchen table looking exhausted but determined. I'm changing my will, he said directly. Jordan has the new documents. Everything, the house, the business, the accounts, it's going to you. I felt like I'd been punched. Dad, are you sure? Logan will what? Be angry that his free ride is gone? Be upset that showing up 6 times in 4 months wasn't enough? Dad's voice was sharp. I'm dying, Megan. I don't have time for bullshit anymore. You've earned this. He hasn't. Jordan spoke up. Your father is completely mentally competent. I've had him evaluated by 2 independent physicians. This is his choice, made freely. Mom touched my hand. He's right, honey. I've been making excuses for Logan for decades. But watching these past few months, you earned this. Not by manipulation, by love. What do I tell Logan? I asked quietly. Nothing, Dad said firmly. Let him find out after I'm gone. Let him understand that actions have consequences. The next 3 months were brutal. Dad's health declined rapidly. The pain got worse. The treatment stopped working. We moved to palliative care, focused on comfort rather than cure. I was there almost every day, sometimes just sitting with him, reading aloud, holding his hand. Other times managing his care, coordinating with hospice, helping him stay as comfortable as possible. Logan's visits became even less frequent. Once every 3 weeks, maybe, always brief, always with questions about getting affairs in order. One Sunday, one of the rare times Logan actually showed up, he brought paperwork. Dad, my accountant says we should start transferring some business assets now to avoid estate taxes. Can you sign these? I was in the hallway. I heard everything. Dad's response was quiet but devastating. Get out, Logan. What? Get out of my house. Come back when you give a damn about your father instead of your bank account. Logan left angry. He called me an hour later, furious. What are you telling Dad? Why is he being like this? I'm not telling him anything, Logan. Maybe you should ask yourself why he's upset. This is your fault. You're poisoning him against me. I hung up. Dad passed away on a quiet Tuesday morning in April, 6.5 months after his diagnosis. I was holding his hand. Mom was there. Logan was not. He was stuck in traffic and arrived 15 minutes after Dad took his last breath. The funeral was large. Dad had been respected in the business community. Logan played the grieving son perfectly, giving a touching eulogy about family and legacy and everything Dad had taught him. I said nothing during the service. Just sat in the front row holding Ethan's hand, grieving the man who'd finally seen me in his last months. 2 weeks later, we gathered in Jordan's office for the will reading. Me and Ethan, Logan and Sophia, Mom, a few distant relatives. Jordan was professional, composed. Before I read the will, I want to clarify that your father made changes to this document 4 months before his death, while under the care of multiple physicians who certified his complete mental competency. Logan shifted uncomfortably. Jordan opened the document. The entirety of Gerald's estate, valued at approximately $2.3 million, including the family home, the business, and all investment accounts, is left to his daughter Megan, with the exception of a $50,000 bequest to Logan. The room went silent. $50,000. Out of $2.3 million, Logan's face went from confusion to shock to pure rage in about 3 seconds. What the fuck? He stood up, chair scraping. This is bullshit. She manipulated him. He was dying. He wasn't thinking clearly. Jordan remained calm. Your father was evaluated by 2 separate physicians who certified his mental competency. He made this decision 4 months before his death, not in confused final days. He also left a letter explaining his reasoning. Jordan slid a sealed envelope across the table to Logan. Logan ripped it open with shaking hands. I watched his face as he read, watched the color drain, watched his expression crumble. When he finished, he looked at me with pure hatred. You planned this. You manipulated a dying man. I met his eyes steadily. I showed up, Logan, every single day for 6 months. I used my medical training to keep him comfortable. I held his hand when he was scared. I was his daughter. My voice didn't waver. You showed up 6 times in 6 months. You called twice a week for 3-minute conversations. And every time you visited, you asked about money. Not about him. About your inheritance. That's not... Dad wrote in that letter exactly how many times you visited, how many times you called, how many times you asked about the business versus asked how he was feeling. He kept track, Logan, not me. Him. Logan turned desperately to Mom. Tell her this isn't right. Tell her to split it. Mom's voice was quiet but firm. She earned it, Logan. I'm sorry, but she did. You showed your father who mattered more to you, him or his money. And you chose wrong. I'll contest this, Logan snarled. I'll take this to court. Jordan cleared his throat. The will contains a no contest clause. If you challenge it and lose, you forfeit your $50,000 bequest entirely. Additionally, Megan would be authorized to countersue for legal fees. I'd strongly advise against it. Logan stared at all of us, at me, at Mom, at Jordan, looking for any ally, any sympathy. He found none. He took the $50,000 and walked out. Logan did not contest the will. His lawyer apparently told him the case was unwinnable, and he'd lose even the small amount he'd been left. He cut off contact with me and Mom completely. Blocked our numbers, refused to let us see his kids. Sophia divorced him 11 months later. Apparently the stress of losing the expected inheritance revealed his true character, and she wanted to raise their children away from his bitterness and entitlement. I used part of the inheritance to pay off all our debt, student loans, mortgage, everything. Ethan and I are finally financially free. I went back to nursing full-time, but without crushing debt. I can actually enjoy my work again. I sold Dad's business to a competitor for a fair price. I had no interest in running a real estate firm, and honestly, Dad had told me near the end, "Do whatever makes you happy, Megan. The business is just money. Use it to build the life you deserve." Mom lives in the family home. We have dinner every Sunday. She's apologized more times than I can count for the years of favoritism, for making excuses for Logan, for not seeing what was right in front of her. I've forgiven her. People can change when they're forced to see the truth. And Logan? Last I heard from a mutual friend, he's working middle management somewhere, still bitter, still isolated, still telling anyone who'll listen that I stole his inheritance. But here's the truth he'll never accept. You can't steal what was never yours. You can only earn what you're given through your actions. Dad didn't leave me that money because I manipulated him. He left it to me because when he was dying, scared and vulnerable, I showed up. Every single day. Not for money, not for inheritance, but because he was my father and I loved him. Logan showed up for an inheritance check. I showed up for my dad, and in the end, that made all the difference. All right, here's my take. Megan did absolutely nothing wrong. Look, I know some of you are thinking, but she benefited from being there, so wasn't that manipulation? No, because she didn't know she'd benefit. She showed up because that's what you do when someone you love is dying. Logan visited 6 times in 6 months. Every visit he asked about money. That's not a son mourning his father. That's an heir waiting for his payday. Gerald changed the will because his eyes were opened. Not by manipulation, but by contrast. When you're dying and one child shows up every day while the other only calls to ask about your assets, the choice becomes crystal clear. Now here's what I want from you. Was Megan right to accept the full inheritance? Or should she have split it with Logan anyway? Have you been the independent one who got nothing while the golden child got everything? Would you have done what Logan did or what Megan did? Drop your answers in the comments. I genuinely want to hear your stories, because I know a lot of you have lived this exact scenario. If this story hit you in the gut, smash that like button and subscribe to Revenge with Mary. We're here for the messy, complicated stories where family dynamics meet consequences. Remember, you can't coast on being the favorite forever. Eventually, your actions speak louder than your position. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.